So Dr. Mark Landry is also a neonatologist and working in a very busy neonatology unit in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And he is a certified mindfulness teacher trainer, and he teaches medical students and parents of his newborn infants mindfulness experiences to reduce stress, connect to the present moment, and learn valuable insights. He is an investigator of scientific studies studying the effect of mindfulness on medical training and patient care. And so you will give an insight on your program on the Mindful Kangaroo Care, mindfulness intervention for mothers during skin-to-skin care. So, floor is yours.
Antes de comenzar, me gustaría expresar mi gratitud al increíble comité organizador de esta conferencia para invitarme desde Canadá para presentar un tema que es muy querido para mí. Mil gracias. Hasta luego. Okay, the rest will be in English. So. I do have a French-Canadian accent, if you wonder. So I want to acknowledge my incredible team at the University of Alberta. And most of the people working in NIDCAP know my colleague Juzer, Tipkan, and my other colleagues are written on that slide. We have no conflicts of interest, and I'm going to be using 3 abbreviations throughout this presentation. KC for, you guess what, Kangaroo Care. MKC for Mindful Kangaroo Care. SC for standard of care. And I want to tell you that when I use the word kangaroo care, I'm only referring to the skin-to-skin part of the kangaroo care, not the whole package. So I don't need to convince you that kangaroo care has been shown to be effective. But what is not known is mainly what's going on in the experience of mothers as they hold their babies. We don't know much of what's going on in their mind and in their body, in their physiology. And that's kind of what triggered a bit this research project. We know that parents experience stress. We talked about it just a moment ago with FICARE and with the Cuidame initiatives. And we know that it's very, very common for parents who give birth prematurely to have a tremendous amount of stress. There have been studies out there showing that. And now we've learned in this conference that co-regulation with the mother and her baby, and even with the father and his baby, is very important. And the question that we had was is there a way that we can prepare the mothers to be in a better place to be co-regulating their babies? And this is kind of where the idea came from. So if you think about your parents, if you are a parent yourself and you had a premature baby, you can relate to your own experience. But if you are a healthcare worker, you can think about when you go at the bedside and you see parents with their babies when they do the skin-to-skin care, what do they typically do? You can think about an answer in your head. In my culture, where I come from, they watch the monitor and they look at the vital signs, like if it was a soap opera. Or they would also watch movies on their phone, watch Netflix. They may be engaged in conversation with the staff, with their family members. Or what else do they do? Sometimes they sleep because those moms are sleep deprived, they're exhausted. But then those are the things that they would do back in my country. So now, we said, oh, that's a fantastic opportunity. There's a gap of time that the moms are available at the bedside where we could teach them mindfulness. So mindfulness requires a certain amount of time to kind of get the practice going. So we said, oh, well, let's take advantage of that. Mindfulness for me is being an expert of your own sensory experience. We go through life every single day. We are bombarded. Now you hear my voice. You see the slides. You feel your feet on the floor. You feel your bum on the chair. You maybe have some thoughts in your mind. Oh, this talk is very interesting. Maybe you hear that in your mind. Maybe you see pictures in your mind because you're daydreaming because this talk is not interesting. So we are bombarded by those sensory experiences. And mindfulness is becoming an expert of those sensory experiences and being able to kind of navigate the world informed from another place. The hard part is that it's not really well defined in the literature, so it's kind of like hard to agree on one common definition, but that's my definition of it. It's been shown to be effective in the NICU. There are like less than a handful of studies that show that. It's also been shown to reduce stress in many, many situations, but including in parents admitted to the NICU. So it has not been done during kangaroo care, so this is where the idea came from. So we had a few questions. First, is it feasible to do it? And is it acceptable to the parents when they're doing that precious moment of kangaroo care? Would they be kind of like relating to that in a positive way? The other question was the more like scientific one, was would that actually reduce the stress that the mom encountered? Would that reduce their anxiety? Would that reduce their symptoms of depression? And hopefully that would increase their baseline of mindful awareness. So obviously it's a non-blinded study that we did. We cannot really blind the intervention. And the parents had to speak English, read English, because they were questionnaires. And we wanted the parents to be there for 4 weeks because that's the time that we wanted to do the study over. And the moms had to be agreeable to have that kind of teaching. We excluded moms that had current or past mental illness that could not be compatible with receiving mindfulness coaching. There was no power calculation because that was a pilot study, so we divided just the groups into two, but we randomized the group into 2 groups, and it was approved by our local research board at the University of Alberta. Initially, when the parents come in our unit, they are greeted by the social worker during the first few days, and then the social workers would tell us, oh, these parents would be approachable or would be agreeable in being approached for research experiments. So we would approach them and then divide them into 2 groups randomly. The first group, which is the main group, the intervention group, I'm going to describe what we did with them. That was the Mindful Kangaroo Care group. So during the first 2 weeks, they would receive instruction by me doing coaching one-to-one, like just with one mother at a time, of 2 mindfulness exercises. The first mindfulness exercise was a really simple mindfulness exercise to become aware of the sensations in your body. So right now, you could be a mom, or pretend to be a mom, and if you were doing the mindfulness exercise with me, I would instruct you on becoming aware of the contact of you with your baby on you, and then discovering like the contact, just the physical contact, just to feel that. But also sometimes when we're connected to another human being in that way, we experience emotions. And then you can experience those emotions in your body. Maybe you have a burst of joy or love or gratitude or contentment. Or maybe you experience, when moms give birth prematurely, sometimes they experience other sensations, worries, guilt, or other things. And you can feel that in your body. So the first week was to experience that and to become aware of those sensations. And the second week was another exercise that we'll do a little bit of it at the end. It was just to purposefully create positive emotional sensation in the body, using, again, the beautiful baby as a trigger for those emotions. We'll talk about it a little later. Week 3 and 4, ongoing support to those moms just to make sure that they would be okay with what was learned in the first 2 weeks. And they had access to audio files to listen to the instructions again, or to read the instructions again, or to practice with my voice recorded on an MP3 file. In the standard of care group, there was no mindfulness coaching at all. And in our unit, we do kangaroo care for babies, so they would do kangaroo care at the right timing that they would do normally. And then that was basically a visit to say, hi, how are you? Don't forget to fill out the kangaroo care log. The mothers completed many questionnaires just to know who they were. And most importantly, they filled out a kangaroo care log where they would chart when they did the kangaroo care, for how long, and what did they do at the same time. And researchers, we completed feasibility at the end just to make sure everything was feasible for this pilot study. And then the stress and anxiety questionnaires that we used was the prenatal stressor scale for NICU parents, a validated questionnaire for stress. And the patient health questionnaire 4 has 4 questions, 2 around anxiety symptoms and 2 around depression symptoms. And we used a Canadian mindfulness scale, the Toronto mindfulness scale. We used non-parametric statistic analysis for that. And then that's the flow chart. There were 40 patients that were approached. 8 said no. And then 32 were recruited and ended up being split into 2 groups because 2 withdrew. We'll talk about them later. And then this is my group. So this is really interesting. Nothing is different statistically from both groups. Moms were between 25 years old, mid-20s, no, early 20s to early 40s. They had between 1 and 5 prior delivery before. And interestingly, the babies were from 23 weeks to 31 weeks. That's like the general population that we would care for in my hospital, from 555 grams to about 1.8 kilo. And then what was interesting was that about half of the moms had prior mindfulness experience, ranging from 1 to 20 years before. So in both groups, that was kind of like surprising to us. And the first kangaroo care happened between the 1st and the 11th day in the groups, remembering that those babies were very preterm, and my hospital has not come to this conference before, so they need to kind of like step up their game. Immediate standard skin-to-skin care. Now, kangaroo care. This slide is not super important. Now, that is the logbook that the moms filled out. So there was 4 weeks of kangaroo care, and then that's 28 days. Over 28 days, moms filled out a log entry for 22 of those 28 days. So that's kind of impressive. And the duration of the kangaroo care was for around 2 hours on average. And the other points, it means that in about 1/3, 33% of the logs, mom used her smartphone for whatever time. In 1/3 of the logs, she slept for whatever amount of time. In half of the log entries, she would be engaged in a conversation for some amount of time. And in the mindfulness group, 85% of the log entries, she would have practiced mindfulness for some amount of time. Now, that's the first questionnaire, about the stress. So we found out that, to our great pleasure, that the mom in the mindfulness group decreased their level of stress. The scale of that questionnaire was 1, not at all stressful, to 5, extremely stressful. And they started with an average of 3.4 and decreased to an average of 2.6. It was not statistically different between the groups, but it was within the mindfulness group. Similarly, for the anxiety scores and the depression scores, it decreased within the group, but was not statistically significant between the groups, but was trending in that direction. Again, that study was not powered to demonstrate anything because we did not do a power calculation. And then, interestingly enough, that the mindfulness awareness scores, there were 2 sub-scores. The curiosity score is the score that represents your attitude when you do a mindfulness exercise of becoming curious of your sensory experience. And the decentering score is the other aspect of mindfulness, that you have a non-judgmental attitude. You're not constantly judging, oh, I have a thought, that's not good. Oh, I have a feeling, oh, that's good. No, that's kind of, oops, sorry about that. That's an expression of what the decentering score would be. And so it increased in the mindfulness group, which was good, and it was different from the standard of care group, which it didn't change in that group. So that's the questionnaires that we had. And I'll skip that one. But the most important part of my findings was the mother's quotes. I really, really love the first one. So I'll read it for you. Before the study, I felt a lot of guilt. I was constantly trying to analyze every emotion, which added a lot of stress. This study has helped me accept each emotion as it is without trying to overanalyze. My stress levels have gone down. I don't know if that's your experience, but in my experience, when I do ask the moms if they feel guilt or we talk about guilt, I want to say most moms, close to 100% of the moms who give birth prematurely, experience some level of guilt. They feel guilty of not having successfully carried the pregnancy to full term. They feel that their body is a failure. That's really huge, that those mothers experience that. And that mom who wrote that quote, I remember her very well because she was not able to do the skin-to-skin care whatsoever because she felt guilty of having delivered preterm. That was preventing her from bonding with her baby. And then the first time she held her baby, that was like that for a few seconds, just to kind of be able to kind of touch the baby. And when we did the mindfulness exercise, she was able to process the guilt at a different level, and she wrote that at the end of the 4 weeks. I was really touched when I read her comment. Another quote from another mom: I was able to block out the alarms and focus on the baby. You know, when the moms are in the unit, even if they are carrying their babies, most of the time they're like that, looking at the monitors. Where's the monitor? And so during the mindfulness, most moms, that was a very common remark that we read, that they were just able to focus on their baby. Another quote: the mindfulness practice impacted my experience by allowing me to let go of my stresses and connect more with the baby, my baby. So connecting to the baby was a central core theme of the quotes that we received. And the last one: overall, I think I strengthened my bond with my baby and made me feel more like a mom. So again, another really common theme. In terms of the acceptability, because I told you we were looking at that as well, it was accepted by the moms. One found it neutral, so overall no one said that it was torture to them. And all the instruments, which means the questionnaires, were acceptable to the mom as well. I told you that 2 moms withdrew from the study. So one was coming from a remote center. She delivered twins at 24 weeks in the remote center. The babies were transferred to our hospital. She was clearly overwhelmed. And she said kind of yes to be polite, to be part of the study. But after the fact, she said, no, that's just too much for me. I just want to be by myself. And another was transferred to another hospital. We have the surgical hospital across the river. So the baby was transferred, so we just lost that baby in the study. Now, in terms of feasibility, just to give you some, if you were planning to do something similar, it took about 30 minutes when we were doing the coaching sessions in the first 2 weeks with the moms. So the coaching interaction one-on-one with the mother to explain what mindfulness is and do an exercise and have some practice going. And the follow-up ones were about like maybe 5 to 15 minutes for the moms in the mindfulness group. We had to reschedule 1/3 of all our encounters because sometimes the baby was not a good time to do skin-to-skin, or it was not a good time for the mom to do skin-to-skin, or she was just not available, or sometimes it was me who was not available as well. In the standard of care group, that's just like saying hello and remember to fill out the questionnaire, so that didn't take much time. And I told you that there were 2 audio files that were available for the mom each week, and so about 2/3 listened to the guided instructions, and about 3/4 listen to the actual practice. So now it's the fun part. So we're going to practice what the mom did during the 2nd week. It's optional. You don't need to do it if you don't want to. But if you don't do it, just don't talk on the phone or talk with your neighbors. Just be respectful. Try to have 5 minutes of silence if you're able to. And then, so what we'll be doing is like a very simple mindfulness exercise to create positive emotional sensation in your body. So what you want to create in your body is a sense of love, of feeling connected, joyful, happy, pleasant, gratitude, things like that. But it's not like you're an actor and just say, hey, I'm going to just start feeling happy. Yay, it's work. So maybe you don't have that switch like an actor. So you might need a little trick to kind of strike the bell of positivity. So what you can do to strike that bell, you can actually visualize something. So you can put in your mind a picture of something that makes you feel loved or happy or joyful. It could be a picture of a pet, a friend, a loved one, a place, a good memory that you want to rebring to your mind. Or if you're not a visualizer, that's not your thing to put images in your mind, you can use words. You can say kind words to yourself, something that someone said to you that makes you feel like appreciated, or anything, or that something that you say to yourself. Either way, you don't want to get lost in your mind. We're already always in our mind during the whole day. You want to go into your body. So what you want to do is whenever you have a hinge of positivity in the body, whether it's in your chest, in your abdomen, your throat, your face, then you move your attention from your mind to your body, and you stay there for as long as the positivity stays in your body. As everything in life, things comes and goes, so the positivity will fade. So when it fades, you just re-strike the bell. You re-visualize something or you say something else. If the visualization or the words doesn't work for you, you can just do a little smile to bring positivity to yourself. A Mona Lisa type of smile, not a huge smile, just like a little one. And then we'll do that for about we still have lots of time, so we'll do that for about 5 minutes just to experience what the mom did. So I'll be giving some guided interactions at the same time, so don't be surprised if you hear my voice. You can stay seated as you are right now. If you want, you can put your 2 feet on the ground, but you don't need to, but that's just easier. You can do that with your eyes open. If you do so, you can look downward so you're not distracted by anything. Or you could do it with your eyes closed, really as you prefer. There's no requirement. So you may start right now by bringing an image of something that makes you feel happy, joyful, loved, grateful. Or you can use some words in your mind of that. And as soon as you detect that positivity in your body, let go of whatever is in your mind and bring all your awareness in your body to detect where is that sensation. How strong is that sensation, or how subtle it is. Just keep your focus in your body. At some point, that sensation may fade, may disappear. It's all good. You can re-strike the bell of positivity by re-visualizing something or re-saying something to yourself in your mind. The goal is just to be curious about that positive emotional sensation that you detect in your body. Like if you were a child opening a gift for the first time, and that sensation is that gift. And now we're going to come back to the presentation. So if your eyes were closed, you can gently reopen them. But you don't need to let go of the positivity. You can keep that positivity for the rest of the day. As long as it stays, it's yours to stay. And if it goes away, that's okay. Just let it go. Don't try to hang on to it. Good. So that's not exactly what I did with the mom, because the mom were holding their babies. And I asked them to actually use 5 ways around the baby to trigger that positivity and to see what would work best for them. One way was smelling the baby. Smells can be quite potent. So smelling the baby while being on skin to skin to try if they detected any positivity. That was one. Second was just to actually look at the baby, because watching your baby can be also very, very interesting in terms of what it creates inside of you. The third way was to just detect the contact of the skin against your skin, of the movement of the baby, and see if that would actually trigger any positive reaction. The fourth way was to visualize something about the baby. So in the context of being in the NICU, maybe visualizing going home, visualizing that the baby would no longer be sick or things like that. And the fifth thing would be to say something about the baby in your mind, or say something to the baby, and to see if that would trigger any positivity. So that was the actual exercise. So thank you for giving it a try. I'm really proud of you. So we're reaching the end. So my study was really kind of a mini study, a pilot study, just trying to find trends or maybe results pointing in the direction that we were hoping for, which it did within the group. It showed that it decreased stress, anxiety, depression. And it showed that between groups, it increased the mindful awareness in the mindfulness group. In mothers of premature babies holding in kangaroo care, which was never done before. So that's the key point. And it was acceptable, it was feasible, and now I think it needs to be replicated in a larger study, but from my mindfulness perspective, I think what would be the next step would be, on the one part, tailor the mindfulness coaching, because it's easy if you've used apps or anything, like it's like a one-size-fits-all, but it's never one-size-fits-all. It has to be individualized for the moms. Mothers come from their own background, they have their own stressors, and having a tailored mindfulness approach might be more meaningful to them. And also, coming back full circle to what kind of triggered the ideas of that study was around co-regulation. I'm really curious to find out if there's, if we can establish a way to find out if there's a way to improve the co-regulation capacity of a mom with her baby. So this is kind of what I see in the future. Again, this is my team. And now you can use the QR code there to get directly to my article, which is open access and free, as we were talking about earlier. And there will be, if you do go into the full online place of the article, you'll get access to the scripts that I used. Everything is there. And there's also audio linked to YouTube of me saying those scripts if you want to use it with your family. And it's available. There's no cost. It's completely out there for whoever wants to use it. That's it. Thank you so much.